As most of you probably know, EA isn't really doing too well right now, in terms of how players perceive it at least. But if you're like me and have been playing video games since PlayStation 1, you know all too well this hasn't always been the case. Remember the good days? SSX, FIFA Street, and oh my goodness, Def Jam. EA was flying higher than ever. The two games I'm about to tell you, or rather show you, are some of my favorite games from EA that if they were to magically see this video and make a sequel, all would be forgiven. Kind of. I'm talking a new Def Jam and NFL Street 4. Hello everyone, my name is Victor and welcome back to the Height Above Sea Level gaming channel. For those of you who are new here, be sure to check out my Twitch at Height Above Sea Level. I stream every weekend, all links in the description below. But without further ado, let's get started. Def Jam was a fun game. I mean, who can forget that intro for Def Jam Fight for New York? All those rappers with unproportional bodies coming together one by one with faces ready for war. And on the other side, another group coming together mad as hell, so you know for sure it's about to go down. Obviously, you can't compare it to other fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat or Tekken, but Def Jam definitely held its own. I mean, it had its own style. It even had its own super move, finisher, or whatever you like to call it, that would deal massive damage and change the match's momentum if done perfectly. Not to mention almost all your favorite rappers were in the game, from Snoop Dogg, Busta Rhymes, and Ghostface Killah. These guys may be old news now, but back in the day they were the household names like all the rappers everyone is listening to nowadays. Picture this, what if EA made a new Def Jam like, let's say, Def Jam Atlanta or Def Jam Chicago with a complete story mode, full character customization, and a fully functioning online mode, kinda like My Park in 2K or something like that, you know what I mean? Of course, with today's gaming market, there's definitely going to be talks about loot boxes, but I do believe there's a way they can do it right without compromising the integrity of the game. If they can somehow learn from the mistakes of Star Wars Battlefront 2 and make it so that even if you need to put loot boxes in the game, because you know companies have to make money, etc., do it in a fair way that doesn't greatly affect how you play. Just imagine your favorite rappers or artists, instead of beefing on Twitter, actually putting their money where their mouth is and settling the differences in the park, subway, or abandoned warehouse. Drake versus Pusha T, Kanye West versus Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj versus Miley Cyrus, J. Cole versus everybody. I would definitely pay full price to see those fights. The only problem would be getting those artists to agree to the likeness and voices being used in the game. Or maybe even use voice actors, but still the likeness part is what's going to be the most difficult challenge. So much has changed since 2004 when these kinds of games were coming out. Social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, these platforms are huge, and I'm sure no artist would like a depiction of themselves getting knocked out by their rivals doing rounds on the internet. Also, these guys are making way more money right now than they've ever done, so getting them to sign would cost an outrageous amount, considering just how much they would request not only in pay, but also in royalties or bonuses. I think it's because of this reason the Avengers game made by Square Enix doesn't feature anyone from the original movie's cast, because it would be too expensive. On top of that, there's no guarantee that even if the artists agree to be part of the game, it would make enough to actually profit. But money matters aside, with other companies doing remakes of games, we could surely use a couple from EA just to restore a little bit of our faith. What do you guys think? Is a new Def Jam the way to go, and which classic one was your favorite growing up? Let me know in the comments below. Next up is NFL Street 4. I chose this one in particular because it has so many memories, and I'm sure it defined the childhood of a lot of you guys as well, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Out of all three, NFL Street 2 is the one I played the most. Oh man, just thinking about doing hotspot huddles, jukes, and all that fun stuff takes me way back. Funny thing that I just noticed about NFL Street is that the bodies of some of the players look almost exactly as the ones in Def Jam, so I don't know if they just used the same character models with a few tweaks here and there, or if it was just a coincidence. But anyway, that aesthetic added to the arcade style of the game, and if anything, they were perfect the way they were. But man, where do I begin? The soundtrack for one was incredible, with songs like Hey Now by Exhibit, Tie It Up by DMX, Young One, Lil Flip, and David Banner, and the one I like the most, In Too Far by Acceptance, which I still listen to even now. This band, as in my opinion, was a bit underrated at the time, but if you like rock music, then you should probably check them out. Again, these guys are super old, but at the time, those tracks were bangers, if you will. I kind of miss how some of the songs in one game were used in another EA game to show the connection between the two, and also how if you played one EA game, you'd get a few bugs in a different one. A good example of a song would be Red Flag by Billy Talent being used in Burnout Revenge and SSX on Tour. There were many others, but right now, those are the only ones I can think of off of the top of my head. As someone who's had the chance to play sports with African American football players, I must say the voice actors did an incredible job creating that atmosphere similar to the one you'd see in an NFL game or college football. I kid you not, the kind of trash talking, chest thumping, and showboating that goes on in those matches is exactly the same as the one in NFL Street. I loved how they used graffiti in the fields and for loading screens when waiting to play a match. The designs of the arenas were done in an amazingly creative way so that I felt like I was in some park in Brooklyn, New York, watching a bunch of freak athletes just destroy each other all in the name of a few touchdowns and maybe a win at the end. But hold on, it got even better. The Game Breakers, Game Breaker 2s and Game Breaker 3s. This was the epitome of street football. Breaking every tackle as your player glowed and the music suddenly got intense as you forced your way through the behemoths blocking your path. An adrenaline rush couldn't even begin to describe what you felt as the controller vibrated aggressively in your hands as you tried to control both yourself and the player. The reason we need an NFL Street 4 is because lately it feels like sport games are losing their shine. Every year they come out with the same game and plaster fancy phrases like redefined gameplay, completely new ball physics, defenders now thinking like players in real time and making real time decisions. But when you play the game, it almost feels exactly like the last one, save for a new soundtrack and cover. Can't tell you how much money I've spent every time I fell for this trap. A new street version of the game, and not just football, would breathe new life into the sports genre. Sure, NBA 2K has tried to incorporate this into their games, and from what I've seen, it looks pretty good. My park functions kind of like a pseudo NBA Street, but the only problem is that it still uses the same mechanics as the NBA games. It would be so awesome if they took out that entire game mode and made it more arcade style with over-the-top crossovers and special effects when you dunk, and just like I said, make a new NBA Street. But back to football and NFL Street, I'm sure EA would be able to pull this off much more easily compared to Def Jam. They already have arrangements with NFL when it comes to the use of player likeness, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure the cover athletes get a bonus, but that's only a small number out of the hundreds in the NFL, so the budget will for sure be way more flexible. The only problem I will see is that because people have grown more sensitive over the years, there might be talk about the game promoting a dangerous way of playing a sport that is already seen as too aggressive by some people. Still, I'd be more than glad to have an NFL Street 4 on myself someday. Worth noting is that FIFA is coming out with its own quote-unquote street mode called VOLTA that will be in FIFA 20 that I'm predicting will probably be similar to my park in NBA 2K, so if you're expecting a return of the old FIFA Street, then I have a feeling you might be a bit disappointed. But how will it play out in the end? Only time will tell. But those are just my thoughts on how EA could be saved. What do you guys think? Is it too late for EA, or is there still time to right their wrongs? Which EA game is your favorite, and would you like to see it remastered or have a sequel? Tell me more in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and as always from me to you, deuces.